Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're plunging into something that causes, well, a lot of distress for babies and their families, baby eczema, technically atopic dermatitis. If you're dealing with those relentless itchy rashes, you know how challenging it is. Understanding what's going on underneath is really the first step.
That's absolutely right. And our goal here in this deep dive is to sort of cut through the confusion. We've looked at the source material on symptoms, the complex causes, and really importantly, the practical ways to manage it. We want you to come away from this feeling informed, not overwhelmed.
Yeah, and it's incredibly common, isn't it?
Mm.
One statistic that jumped out was that something like 13% of kids under 18 in the U.S. have eczema. And a lot of those cases start really early, newborn eczema in the first few months.
Mm-hmm. And let's get one major worry out of the way immediately. Atopic dermatitis, it's a chronic skin issue, yes, but it is not contagious. It's about how the skin itself functions. It absolutely does not spread between children.
Good to clarify that up front. So let's unpack this. If a baby has a rash, how can you tell if it's eczema versus, I don't know, just regular baby skin irritation? What does it actually look like?
Right. So atopic dermatitis is fundamentally about persistent inflammation. It makes the skin intensely itchy, really dry, and irritated. In babies, what you'll often see are these red, scaly patches. They look inflamed. And because babies scratch, they can't help it. These patches often get kind of weepy or even crusty.
So it's more than just simple dryness. It's that inflammation plus the itch. The sources mentioned this discomfort is a huge part of the problem. Is it more about physical pain, or is it the itchiness disrupting sleep?
It's primarily driven by that intense, relentless itch. The inflammation itself can be sore, yes, but the itch is what causes so much distress. It leads to scratching, often at night, which messes up sleep for everyone. And actually, that constant scratching over time can cause the skin to thicken and get almost leathery.
Leathery, wow.
Yeah, it's a process called light enification. We tend to see that more in toddlers who've had eczema for a while.
That structural change is interesting. And something else really striking from the material is how the location of the rash changes as the child gets older. Where should parents be looking?
Yes, that's a really key diagnostic clue. In young infants, say under 6 months, you typically see it on the face, cheeks, chin, forehead, maybe the scalp. But as they get a bit older, start crawling and moving more, it shifts. You'll find it more in the creases, the elbows, behind the knees, wrists, ankles, sometimes around the mouth or eyelids too.
Okay, so it migrates. But here's a key point you mentioned.
Yeah.
It usually doesn't appear in the diaper area.
Correct. That's a classic sign.
But why? That area seems prone to rashes.
It's the moisture. The diaper basically traps moisture against the skin, creating a kind of protective, occlusive barrier. That extra moisture helps protect the skin there, which is exactly what eczema-prone skin is lacking elsewhere. It's a good hint you're dealing with atopic dermatitis and not just, say, contact diaper rash. So connecting this all together, the underlying cause isn't just one thing. It's usually a mix, a kind of genetic tendency combined with environmental factors that trigger flare-ups.
Right, we often hear about that atopic trio, eczema, asthma, hay fever. How strong is that genetic link? What's actually going wrong with the skin barrier itself?
The family history connection is very significant. If a parent or sibling has eczema, asthma, or hay fever, the baby's risk goes up quite a bit. Genetically, it often involves issues with proteins that are crucial for skin structure, like one called filaggrin. Think of your skin cells like bricks. The lipids and proteins are the mortar holding them together. In eczema, that mortar is faulty or maybe insufficient. This means moisture escapes too easily, causing dryness. And at the same time, irritants, allergens, bacteria, they can get in more easily.
I see.
That triggers the immune system, which overreacts and causes inflammation.
So the barrier's leaky, essentially. It lets moisture out and irritants in.
Yeah.
Okay, given that vulnerability, what are the specific environmental triggers parents should be really watching out for?
We can group them into a few categories. First, direct skin irritants. Things like harsh soaps, laundry detergents, even bubble baths or certain cleansers. The sources are clear. Anything with strong fragrances, dyes, or harsh chemicals can be a problem. You really have to watch what touches the skin.
Okay, soaps and detergents. What about airborne things?
Yes, the classic allergens. Even tiny particles can set off a reaction in that super sensitive skin. Common ones are house dust mites, pollens from trees, grasses, and pet dander.
Right.
And then there's temperature and sweat. People often forget this one. Extremes can be big triggers. Hot, humid weather leads to sweating, and sweat itself contains irritants that can really aggravate the rash, especially in skin folds. But also, Cold, dry winter air just strips moisture right out of that already compromised skin barrier, leading to dryness and flare-ups.
And what about stress? Can a baby being fussy or hitting a developmental bump actually cause a flare-up?
That's a good question. Stress itself doesn't cause the eczema in the first place, but it's definitely confirmed as something that makes existing symptoms worse. Emotional upset in the baby can trigger a flare-up, and crucially, it often increases that urge to scratch. That can turn a mild patch into something much more severe quite quickly.
Okay, so it's an exacerbator. We also need to touch on the link with food allergies. It seems strong.
It is. They often go hand in hand. Certain foods are common culprits for triggering flare-ups in babies who are already susceptible. The big ones are often cow's milk, eggs, sometimes nuts, soy, fish. This is why, if eczema is severe or not responding well to skin treatments, doctors might suggest looking into food triggers, maybe through a temporary elimination diet. And for babies who are breastfed, sometimes the mother might need to temporarily adjust her own diet to see if something she's eating is passing through and triggering the baby's skin. It's about pinpointing the trigger.
Wow. Okay, so managing this really requires vigilance on multiple fronts. If the core problem is this faulty barrier sensitive to everything, what does the day-to-day management look like? The sources seem to emphasize daily routines.
Absolutely. Daily skincare is, without a doubt, the foundation of managing baby eczema. It's relentless work, even when the skin looks clear. You're constantly trying to repair and support that fragile skin barrier.
Let's talk about bathing, because it feels a bit counterintuitive, right?
Yeah.
Doesn't water dry the skin out more?
It can if you do it wrong. The goal isn't just cleaning. It's about hydrating the skin and washing off surface irritants or allergens. So baths should be short, think 5 to 10 minutes max, and use lukewarm water, never hot, as hot water strips oils. Use a very mild hypoallergenic fragrance-free cleanser, and only where needed, like visibly dirty areas or sweaty folds. Don't soap up the whole baby every time. Then comes the most critical step, moisturizing immediately after the bath.
How immediate is immediate? And what kind of moisturizer is best?
We're talking within about 3 minutes of getting the baby out of the tub while their skin is still damp. Gently pat them dry, never rub, as that friction is irritating. Then, straight away, apply a thick layer of moisturizer. Ointments like plain petroleum jelly or very thick fragrance-free creams are generally best. They create a stronger barrier, and this is vital. You need to do this at least once or twice every single day, even if the rash seems gone. You're doing maintenance on that barrier.
That's interesting about avoiding fragrances. The sources also mentioned avoiding many natural or organic products. Why is that? You'd think they'd be gentler.
Yeah, it seems logical, but it's often not the case for eczema skin. While natural sounds good, many plant extracts or essential oils found in these products are actually quite complex chemically. On healthy skin, they might be fine. But on compromised, eczema-prone skin, these compounds can act as potent irritants or even allergens, triggering the very inflammation you're trying to calm. Often, simpler, pharmaceutical-grade emollients with fewer ingredients are much safer and more effective for this specific condition.
Okay, that makes sense. It sounds like sticking to this strict bathing and moisturizing routine must be, well, pretty demanding for parents.
It really is. It requires consistent, meticulous attention, but it's the first line of defense. When that routine isn't quite enough to keep flares under control, then we move towards medical treatment.
Right, like steroid creams.
Exactly. Topical corticosteroids are the main tool for controlling inflammation during a flare-up. They come in different strengths, prescribed by a doctor, and are used short-term to get things back under control. For more delicate skin areas, like around the eyes or in the armpits and groin, doctors often prefer non-steroidal options. Things like tacrolimus, pimecrolimus, or crisaborole ointments. They work differently but also reduce inflammation, often with fewer long-term risks on thin skin.
And the sources mention something more intensive called wet wrap treatments. How do those work?
Wet wraps. They can be incredibly effective for really stubborn, severe flares. Basically, they superhydrate the skin and help the medications penetrate better. You'd apply the prescribed medication or a thick moisturizer first. Then you take clean cotton pajamas or a onesie, soak it in warm water, and wring it out so it's just damp, not dripping. You put that damp layer on the child, and then you put a dry layer of pajamas over the top. This keeps the moisture locked in and provides warmth. Depending on the doctor's advice, you might keep these on for just 30 minutes or sometimes even overnight if the child tolerates it. The constant moisture is very soothing and really helps break the itch-scratch cycle.
That sounds intense but effective.
Yeah.
Then there was the bleach bath section. That phrase definitely catches your attention. Bathing a baby in bleach sounds alarming.
It does sound alarming, I agree, but the key is the dilution. It's very, very diluted, roughly the same concentration of chlorine as you'd find in a swimming pool. The purpose isn't cleaning, it's antiseptic. Eczema skin, because that barrier is broken, is really prone to getting colonized by bacteria, especially Staphylococcus aureus.
Yeah.
Yeah, staph bacteria love to live on eczemated skin, and their presence actually makes the inflammation worse. So the diluted bleach bath helps to decrease the amount of bacteria on the skin surface. This reduces the risk of secondary infections and can also help calm down some of the inflammation driven by the bacteria themselves.
So what's the ratio? How much bleach?
It's typically about half a cup of regular, plain household bleach, no fragrances or extras, in a full standard-size bathtub filled with lukewarm water. For a smaller baby tub, it's about 2 tablespoons. The soak is usually 10, maybe 15 minutes. And crucially, afterwards, you rinse the baby off completely with fresh, plain water, pat them dry, and immediately apply their regular moisturizer or medication.
Okay, that context helps. It's more like a swimming pool dip.
Mm.
Now, on the completely other end of the spectrum, the sources highlighted breast milk as potentially helpful.
Yes, quite significantly. Some research mentioned in the material suggests that applying expressed breast milk topically to affected areas might be as effective as using a mild, like 1% hydrocortisone cream for localized patches. And of course, without the potential side effects of steroids, you'd just soak a cotton ball in some expressed milk and dab it on the rash. Beyond topical use, there's also evidence suggesting that exclusively breastfeeding for at least the first 3 months might be linked to a lower risk of the child developing eczema later by around age 6. Its natural properties seem protective.
Fascinating. Okay, before we wrap up, it's really important. When should parents stop trying home management and definitely call the doctor? What are the warning signs?
Absolutely crucial. You need to seek medical advice if the eczema symptoms suddenly get much worse, or if they just aren't responding to the treatment plan you've established with your doctor. Also, look out for any signs of a skin infection developing on top of the eczema. That could be increased redness, warmth spreading out from the rash, maybe pus-filled bumps, or if the child develops a fever. And one more serious one. If you suddenly see blisters that look like cold sores or fever blisters appearing on the eczema patches, that could signal a potentially serious viral infection, like herpes, and needs urgent medical attention.
Okay, those are clear red flags. So to quickly recap our deep dive, baby eczema, or atopic dermatitis, is chronic. It's often got a genetic component, involves a faulty skin barrier, gets triggered by environmental factors, and really needs this diligent, multi-step approach. That means consistent, heavy moisturizing, carefully avoiding known triggers, and sometimes using specific medications during flare-ups.
That sums it up well. And it's important to remember, while symptoms often do get much better as kids get older, especially by school age, you have to assume it won't just heal on its own. Ongoing proactive management is key, not just for comfort, but also, critically, to lower the risk of those secondary problems like the staph infections we talked about, which can really complicate things. It raises an interesting point to think about. Since the symptoms often lessen with age, how much of our long-term strategy is about actively strengthening or training that developing skin barrier over years versus just managing the current inflammation? And could really proactive trigger management and inflammation control in infancy actually influence, maybe even alter the long-term, perhaps even genetic expression of this condition decades later? It's definitely something to mull over.